Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and a warm welcome to this Research Matters event with title Invest in the Future, a call to strengthen research and innovation in Europe. And ladies and gentlemen, also a warm welcome to everyone joining us live via the live stream. My name is Charlotte van Veldhoven-Geerdink. I'm a moderator at Charlie Speaks, and I also used to be a public affairs professional in the field of education, research and innovation, and it is my great pleasure to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, I really have a couple of practicalities I would like to run you through. Well, first of all, the event will be live streamed and recorded, but also a photographer will be taking pictures. Great to see you and have you as well. However, if you would not like to feature in any of the pictures, please make yourselves known to the organization. Secondly, there will be a person taking notes. So you are more than welcome to take your own notes, but there will be a conference report published at the end. And also we have someone dedicated to posting on the hashtag Research Matters. But of course, you are also more than welcome to use the hashtag Research Matters. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we would love to engage with you. And we're going to do it in a very low threshold, old-fashioned way. Just raise your hands. I think that works perfectly well. And please state your name. Good. Why do we have this event, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, if we want to maintain and even further strengthen Europe's global research, fostering innovation, there's only three things that we need to do. Invest, invest, and invest, exactly. And I think with no less than 17 key associations that form part of the Research Matters campaign, those associations understand this very well. And now it is up to politics. And I think 2024 really is a remarkable year because we celebrate 40 years of the EU Research and Innovation Framework Programme. And I think that is really a milestone. On top of that, I think what happened recently, actually yesterday, we can feel a bit encouraged by what Ursula von der Leyen said at the 17th birthday of CERN. She said, I want to invest in research during the next budgeting periods. But saying one wants to invest is wonderful. If it's going to happen, of course, we still need your support. And also for me, to get a little bit of an understanding as to what your opinions are, I just have three kind of key statements that I'm going to make, and please raise your hand if you agree. First of all, in 2022, EU research and development expenditure relative to GDP stood at 2.24%. I believe that a call for a 3% GDP spending on R&D by each and every EU member state in 2030 is wishful thinking and will never happen. You should put it up higher, Maria, please. It's wishful thinking. Okay, good. Secondly, right now and at this very moment, my gut feeling is that we will be successful as research and innovation community to secure a budget for 200 billion for FP10. Now you should all raise your hands, of course. Okay, and finally, I strongly believe that a fifth freedom to the existing four to enhance research, innovation and education in the single market will come to fruition, concrete implementation and have legal anchoring in the coming 10 years. And Mr. Letta sitting here, perhaps you have to turn around and see all the hands. I think that, yeah, that looks very good. Thanks a lot. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure then to announce to you the first speaker of this afternoon, and that is Jan Kassout, who is the president of UPRIO, but also the host of the Research Matters campaign. Please give him a big hand.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Thank you very much, Charlotte, and a warm welcome from my side also to all of you. Welcome to today's panel debate of European funding, a critical discussion hosted by the Research Matters campaign. What is the Research Matters campaign? who we are. You see here the partners. The campaign represents a dynamic collaboration of European universities, research organizations, funding agencies, industry partners, this is also very important, and communication professionals. We as UPRI are from the communication side, and we all work together to set up this initiative, this campaign, do events, and have our messages out there. Our collective mission is to highlight the indispensable role that research and innovation play in securing Europe's future and to advocate for the necessary financial fuel to these endeavors. We call for, and here you see our main messages. As we gather here, we are reminded of the immense challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for Europe. The Research Matters campaign has set ambitious goals, including increasing R&D funding to over 3% of GDP across all European countries, doubling the budget for the EU's upcoming Research and Innovation Programme, FP10, and ensuring the protection of these vital funds through ring fencing. These goals are not just aspirations, they are essential for maintaining Europe's leadership in global research, fostering innovation, and addressing the pressing challenges of our time. We had an open letter. You still can sign that open letter, so you're welcome as universities, as associations. Today, we will hear from experts, stakeholders, and decision makers who will delve into the complexities of EU funding, discuss the strategies needed to achieve these goals, and explore the broader impact of research investments on our societies. This debate is important, is an important moment to consider how we can collectively push for a stronger, more innovative, and a better funded Europe. You found on the website also the open letter with those messages I already told you, and also you're still invited to sign the open letter. In the end, I would like to thank the CESIC for hosting us here in their building, and Jeroen also for the organization. And in the name of all our organization, what you saw on the last slide, we are very happy to be here, and I would like to hand over to you, Charlotte. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan, for explaining to us what the goal is of the Research Matters campaign. And as you've heard, when your association or organization has not joined yet, you're more than welcome to join and make yourselves known to the main organization. Good, ladies and gentlemen. April 2024, I think to many a very important month. Also the months after, because that gave you ample of time to analyze a very important report, namely the Future of the Single Market report, More Than a Market. It is a great pleasure now to listen to our keynote speaker of today, Mr. Enrico Letta, who is the former Prime Minister of Italy and author of the report. We're super happy to have you. So I'd like to say the floor is yours.
It is a great pleasure for me to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure, and I will be more than happy to share with you and also to, of course, to listen. I have to say that I'm a little bit curious about to listen what will be the debate today, but also what is, in your views, the way in which we can land on some of these issues for the legislature that is just starting. I take the opportunity of these minutes just to share with you the reasons why I had the report in the way in which I had it, and also with the purpose that I put at the center of the report. First of all, the way. I decided to have a report, not writing it in a closed bureau at the Berlaymont, not because of myself, but because of a clear order, not a suggestion that I received, last one in my life, by Jacques Delors himself. Because when I met him in September last year, he passed away, as you know, in December. It was last time for me to meet him, and as president of the Jacques Delors Institute, I had in the last 8 years many times the possibility to exchange with him, and he clearly told me that he was happy because of this exercise. That was the way also to relaunch the entire process of the single market. But he told me very clearly, you have to travel on the ground, not closing doors, and traveling not only in the capitals. So this is why this order for me was a little bit, I would say, binding. So I decided to travel around, and I had the opportunity to meet around Europe on the ground many experts, people interested in trying to leave footprint in the report, and giving me also the possibility to try to test some ideas, to launch some other ideas, in a few words to interpret this report as a collective exercise. I'm very happy to be here, because being here is the demonstration that the idea of a collective exercise worked, because many of you were part of this first part of the preparatory work. And I have to say, I started my journey in Geneva at CERN in October last year, meeting people there and having some ideas from this first meeting. Today I have to say I'm happy for two reasons. I think part of the purpose is a success. Now we have the other part that is, for the moment, not a success. The part of the purpose of the exercise is success in terms of two aspects. First aspect was to clearly make the European public debate aware of the fact that we are lagging behind, as we say today, and we have to relaunch. And we have to relaunch on innovation, research, knowledge, and this is crucial for the future of Europe, for competitiveness, and we have to absolutely link it, and we have this flagship at the center of the next 5 years. And I'm very happy because von der Leyen clearly said something similar yesterday, and she decided also in the speech she gave at the European Parliament with the vote of the Parliament, and in the roadmaps that she gave to the commissioners, that was part of this mission. So a general awareness of a common collective mission for the next 5 years. And I have to say, you know better than I do that today we need to be good in communication. Usually I'm not good in communication, but this idea of the fifth freedom works, if I may say. And this idea of the fifth freedom today can be the way to, I would say, break ice and help us to enter where usually we weren't able to enter. The second main point, maybe more important because more difficult, was to create a link, a bridge between all this topic and the financial world. Usually these words are totally separated. There's a Chinese wall politically too at the European level. So my big purpose was to try to create a bridge and to break these Chinese walls and trying to say to the European decision makers that if we are not able to change the mood of our approach to financial markets, it will be impossible to make it. It will be impossible for many reasons. The first reason is the fact that we are now paying the price of 10 years, 15 years, maybe decades, of consequences of the fact that we didn't integrate the single market completely. And that is, in my view, the key point and maybe the core of my report. The integration of the single market was incomplete, is incomplete. And sometime when we have comparison at world level, and we say China, US, Europe, we always says, China, Europe, and the US. And in reality, China and US exist. And Europe is, on many sectors, in many fields, a geographical expression. It's not an economic one and a political one. And I put the three topics that are maybe the most controversial, financial services, telecom, and energy, because the three are the main sectors of the single market, where for political reasons, since the beginning, the member states decided to keep these topics at national level and not to integrate them. And we are still there, because today, on the three, it is in the hands of national supervisory authorities to deal with companies and to regulate the traffic there. It's not a European topic. With this very strange paradox that today we have in our wallets the euro, the same currency. And frankly speaking, I don't see any comparison possible between the strength, the symbolic strength of the currency in terms of, I would say, national sovereignty and these three other sectors. So the other sectors were easier to integrate, and the currency was very complicated. Leave the national currencies after centuries of life was more complicated than integrate supervisory national authority of financial markets. I think if you have a referendum asking the people, do you think that the financial markets in Europe are under the regulation of one single financial authority or 27? I think people think that we have one. In reality, we have 27 financial authorities, and this is one of the flagships of the resistance, of the fences, thinking that it is, I don't know why, an important point of resistance to those who want to integrate everything. But my point is that we have the euro, why don't we have the integration of financial markets? And we don't have the integration of financial markets, and this is, in my view, large part of the problem we have today. Because without the integration of financial markets, we lack scale. And we lack scale and we lack investments at large scale and at European level. And the main problem is that it's not just we lack investments or we are fragmented or we are lagging behind, but we are very generous. We are very generous with our competitors. I can give you a set of examples of what does it mean, being generous. We are very generous with the Americans because thanks to our fragmentation, all the financial system is in the hands of the American giants. And also all what we do every day. Think at the financial transactions that the daily life brings to us. Financial transactions are done with American platforms, the famous three that you can choose which of the three, but there are three American platforms. And these American platforms are sending the fees of our activities on the European ground, among European consumers, of course, to the American market, and not only the fees, but also the data, if I may say. And data are important. We are a colony today. We are a colony. And I'm very pro-American. I want to be very clear on that. But we are a colony. And we are not able to have our own financial system integrated enough to drive investments. So the second big part of my report was to try to raise this topic of the role of financial markets. Because one of the consequences of the crisis, of the financial crisis, was the stigma on finance in general. And the fact that it's very complicated to find a political leader standing in front of voters, telling the voters, I will promise you the capital markets union. Because people are immediately thinking that, okay, it's not for me, it's for bankers. It's not for me, it's for people in the financial world. But in reality, without a strong integrated European financial market, it would be impossible to be successful in terms of investments. And for another reason, and the other reason is the fact that there's no agreement among member states on a new next generation EU. I want to be very clear on that. It would be great to have an agreement on a new next generation EU. But I can tell you that I visited all the member states, this agreement is not there. And I don't want to hope to have another meteorite arriving from, I don't know, like COVID, to oblige countries to. But today, this agreement is not there. So we need to find a compromise on the great plan of investments with private money, private investments, and part of the public investments. If we are not able to do so, I think we will be after the end of next generation EU with the old financial budget of the European Union that is absolutely not enough for the new goals. This is why the core of my report is exactly on that. And it is the way to create the links, the bridges between this integration of financial markets and the higher purpose, like how to finance investments in innovation and research. And I want to be very clear, not because I don't think that we need public investments. I know very well that we need public investment, but we know very well that the big difference with the US is that we lack on the private side. And this lack with the private side is so, for us, so crucial that we need to recuperate on that point. I end up on the fifth freedom, on the I think the flagship and the idea of this flagship, because for me this idea is not just, I would say, giving a brand to help for the next legislature, for this legislature to raise the attention and to mobilize energies, but it is also something different, is the way also to try to understand not only how to scale but how to spread also. Because in my view, one of the main problems we have in Europe also is the fact that we are living in a European Union where asymmetries, the fact that on many issues we are living in a system with one-way tickets, and the one-way tickets are from the east to west and from south to north, in the way in which people are working and are mobile in the labor market. That is for me the other main point also for the research system and for the education system. And this idea to use the fifth freedom as a sort of umbrella on how to spread research and innovation, how to work the circularity that is not happening today. Today, these one-way tickets. Can tell you that for me, it was really very, very sad to go around in all the member states and to receive from some member states, I would say, very sad discourses by the local authorities or by ministers, and by saying that, okay, you are attracting all our talents and you are not giving us in exchange anything. So at the end of the day, we will lose, we are in a lose-lose situation. And I think that this idea of a frustration of some part of our ground is part of the problem. I end up by saying that I attach great importance to the way in which the brand, the flagship, and also the concrete solutions that I put in the report can be successfully implemented. But I would like also to tell you that my work is a work in progress, and this work in progress means that I think we can, if it is true that finally we decided to break the ice, we can try to find a way to raise debates, attention, and this is why I wanted to be here, because I think the campaign that you decided to launch and this fantastic coalition of association people is exactly what we need to have. So even if I'm not an expert on these topics, I think in the in the room. I'm the only one who is not an expert here, but I'm a great supporter. So please use me as supporter and use the report. And I think we can find a way also to create evolutions of everything, because at the end of the day, what I would like to tell you is that the method works. The idea to have a collective work in progress activity, trying to spread everywhere in Europe, and trying in a sort of bottom-up exercise, pushing and creating momentum. In my view, it is the most important goal. And when I say momentum, I say that not because I'm optimistic by definition, but because I see this momentum. And I, frankly speaking, I didn't see this momentum until now. So let's go, and we are here just to work and to be successful. Thank you.
Audio, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for your contribution. I think it's very good to learn that we have another ambassador supporter for the cause of the Research Matters campaign. And I think it's only music to the ears of many that you say what you've done is a collective exercise. And that is exactly also what's happening with European research to do this collective exercise. So thanks a lot for that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue now with a panel discussion. And therefore, I'd like to call out the panelists to join me here on stage. Ladies first, Maria Leptin, the President of the European Research Council. Please give her a big hand. Complete the yellow chair, please. Yeah. Okay. Pascal Metivier, Head of Research and Innovation at Syensqo and member of the European Roundtable for Industry. Please give him a big hand as well. Then I'd like to ask Mr. Letta as well to join us once again on the stage. Please take the great chair. And then finally, Dr. Christian Ehler, member of the ITRE committee, but also Rapporteur for Horizon Europe at the European Parliament. Please give him a big hand as well. Great that you are joining us. And I think what's also good is that we have a great mix here in the panel with industry, research really at the very core, the excellent research joining us, then Mr. Letta with his broader overview, but then also, of course, another very important EU institution, namely the European Parliament. I know that Mr. Ehler needs to leave for a meeting in about 10 minutes. So I know. So please be prepared with your questions, but I'm first going to ask a couple of questions to you, if I may. I know, Mr. Ehler, it's about a year ago that you've been one of the first ones actually calling for a 200 billion euro budget for FP10. Do you still support your own call?
I mean, yeah, for sure. And this is, I mean, some of you might know me, it's my fourth mandate to negotiate a framework program, at least most likely. We do the midterm review right now together parallel to the Commission. But it's not a given figure. I mean, if you consequently follow politics, and I'm EPP, and I'm not always too convinced that the focus on CO2 reduction is the only purpose of anything in the world. But if you see to recent OECD figures, we do know if we want, as we had been defined the 2050 goals, we need roughly 35% of the technologies we would need to reach that ambition are not existing. So basically we had been doing so far, and I just take one pathway because it's usually the one within the Commission and also for a broader public where you can explain, although I'm really worried about sometimes about that focus. But I mean, if you're honest, all what we're doing in 2030 is more or less the question that we are scaling up technologies which had been fairly invented 20 years ago, even longer. I mean, if you take carbon out of combustion, more or less we do know that since the 1930s, that's the Fischer-Tropsch and whatever kind of inventions. So in a way, we had been scaling up. and we had to care about the question, what are the consequences in terms of prices and what is the cost for investment. So basically on all we had been dealing with, be it Corona, mRNA, I was the CEO of a biotechnology center in the late 1990s. So in the eyes of my colleagues, I'm somehow representing a technology museum. But when we had been starting mRNA in the late 1990s, and you would have said that is the number one answer to the biggest pandemic since the early 20th century.
Everyone would be laughing, probably.
Everyone would be laughing. So, but what is at hand had been funneled 20 years ago. So, and what becomes clear and worrisome, that the price for not delivering on the 3% of the GDP, which had been set as a target also 20 years ago, is now becoming obvious, because the technology development competition is accelerating, and it's accelerating by technology. So in a way, it becomes obvious that the 200 billion are not a given political figure. It is simply that you can mathematically go through the challenges we are facing and the ambitions we had been formulating, that we're going to fail without a budget of that. But one thing I would like to add, what worries me, and I always have to add that, is that the R&D expenditures of the industry are going down. 5 years ago, at least Volkswagen was one of the 10 most R&D spending companies in the world. There is no European left right now. We are not even in the top 15s anymore.
And are now applying for state aid as well.
And so in a way, we're in a situation that we're squeezed by both sides. We don't have the appropriate public spending, but industry in Europe is less and less spending money on R&D, and that is worrisome.
Exactly, and I think Pascal later on will also point out to that part. Thank you so much also for putting the focus on the technologies. So how can we best overcome the challenges that we face? And when I've heard you correctly, okay, we had those technologies, many of them already years ago, but how can we really focus then on those much needed breakthrough technologies to really set Europe apart from other continents?
I do believe, and that is not something very attractive in the eyes of the Commission and many politicians, that we go the other way around. I mean, now we have this, I mean, you all hear the rumors that we have a new competitiveness program underneath. They want to squeeze all together all the funds. But I mean, what we see is almost the opposite. I mean, what is successful? It's the self-organization process of research. I mean, the ERC is the most successful instrument of the EU. If you see what is the weakest instrument of the EU, it's the second pillar, where we politicized more or less the agenda of research. I mean, it's not that we should do that without guidance. I mean, it's public money. We should look about efficiencies. We should set some priorities, but we might have also the guts to fail on that priorities. But what I'm seeing right now is a certain tendency that we want to be over-descriptive. I mean, the whole second pillar is, from my point of view, a complete disaster. We're spending not enough money on too many projects with too many participants. And in a situation like that, where politics is attracted to have the next super fund, politics is attracted to define goals, to look for the moonlight shots and whatsoever.
So you think a kind of balance needs to be restored between, on the one hand, the policy, on the other hand, the freedom of the researchers and innovators to come up with what they think is...
It's not just the freedom. I mean, the freedom is sometimes interpreted that we can do whatever we want with the money. I mean, it is simply that I personally doubt, if you see the history of technology politics, the MITI in Japan, I mean, we completely failed. If you see that historically, in the 1960s, the perception of the MITI was not to build cars because they were super successful on scooters. I mean, luckily, the Japanese automotive industry didn't follow. In the 1970s, we thought it's all not about digital, it's about nuclear. Wasn't just partly a successful story. So I think in these times, we have to find a delicate balance between, let's say, peer group reviews, a more self-organized innovation scheme, the competition of innovation ideas in Europe, and something which is needed if you want politics to buy in and to invest, to have a certain guideline where we might have to go. And that is something where I'm worried that we are now, the price for more money will be more a politicized program. And that is, from my point of view, not the right way to do.
Okay, thank you very much for your inputs. Perhaps to see if there might be one question specifically for Mr. Ehler before he's leaving. Do we have a microphone for the lady in the audience? If you can please state your name, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Eleonora Francica from Science Business. We read Ursula von der Leyen's mission letters to the commissioner designate, and we saw there is no mention of FP10, so the next framework program. We saw there is a call for expanding the ERC and other activities related to R&I, but no mention to how to develop FP10. What do you think about it?
Now, in the midst of the, you pointed the finger. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated, and I don't want to bore you with the nitty-gritties. I mean, we obviously we talk about whether there is a ring-fenced FP10 or not. But ring-fenced is a technical term which comes from the MFF, and it's literally not true, because in the MFF you define ceilings, maximum spending, and not really ring-fenced programs. But the effect of the MFF was that there was something, the result was somehow a ring-fenced program. So right now, it's we're in the midst of a discussion where DG Butt and a lot of French wet dreams want to create a big super fund, where they, to some extent, try to squeeze the idea of a competitiveness fund with innovation instruments. But that, in effect, in negotiations, interestingly, would lead most likely to a ring-fence program, because then the parliament is in co-decision, and the majority in the parliament is for a ring-fence program. So we have to be a little bit careful if you're identifying. It's a little bit like Kant and define what you're saying before you do philosophy. But I mean, yes, it is in these days that before the commissioner hearings, it might be that some of commissioner become John Lacklands, as history had been telling, so kings without land, because there is an intensive discussion right now, and mostly decided in the next weeks, to be honest, before that is all going to happen, whether we have a standalone program or we won't have. I think it's not the job of politicians to present themselves by presenting a threat and saying them, I'm the solution. I mean, we have to be very careful whether it makes sense to some extent to integrate research into a competitiveness context, or is it just the French old administrative dream to get this super budget where all is squeezed in, that leaves a complete flexibility to Commission to decide year by year, more or less, what is innovation and where they put their money in. So it is somewhere in between. So I think the shame and blame game doesn't work. But I mean, it's very interesting that we're going to ask a lot of commissioner questions on budgets they might not have.
Okay, thanks a lot for this input. I think you're going to have a couple of very exciting weeks ahead. A final question to you, Mr. Ehler. Can we count on your support for the Research Matters campaign? You have to say yes, of course.
Yes. No, it's not. It's not a but. I mean, it's the problem is. I mean, for the research area, I mean, we have to make ourselves honest. I mean, yes, on a lot of your intention, but some questions you haven't asked. I mean, if I see, for example, the discussion with European universities on full cost model, I mean, even the public sector somehow understand their interest rate and so, whereas the universities want to stay in the middle age. So, I mean, I think what I had been seen so far in the campaign, I can sign, but I would like, I would have ask some questions to the campaign which hadn't been answered yet.
I think afterwards there will be ample of opportunity to perhaps set up an exchange, but we really are thankful that we could pick your brains. Thanks so much, and please give Mr. Ehler a big hand. Okay, then we're going to continue the discussion, and I'm happy to join you here in the yellow chair. I'd like to with Maria. Thanks so much also for joining us. We heard a couple of times already the mention of the ERC, one of not just key components of Horizon Europe, but really a champion, a flagship among all the different EU programs out there. I would be happy to know how the ERC ensures that the budget continues to support high-risk, high-reward research projects that push the boundaries of scientific knowledge.
Well, the budget supports that by supporting the scientists who come with their ideas. And that is really the essence. The ideas at the ERC do not come from the Scientific Council who guides the ERC. They do not come from the top. They come from the researchers themselves. And that is simply the philosophy of the ERC, that that it's the researchers on the ground who know best where the problems are, what is possible in terms of problem solving, and you know, what excites them. And I always say, of course, of course they would favor solutions for a Green Deal. Of course they would favor a cancer cure, etc., and get rid of poverty, get clean water. They're citizens themselves. So they don't need to be told where to look because they are at the forefront. They're the first ones to see if a colleague has a new way of solving a problem, and they will come to us and ask for money to do that. So it's the best way to fund exactly those discoveries that Christian Ehler just mentioned that we will need in 20 years' time or next year's time. We just don't know, but they'll come from those scientists who are at the forefront of research already and who can propose their best ideas.
Very good. And I think Mr. Ehler said, okay, yeah, it would be good to give the community freedom, but not that much freedom, because we still need to decide on some frameworks. Would you agree upon that? Because if I listen to you, I would say I can ensure that with the best brains that we convene within the ERC, I can give them that responsibility.
Well, sorry, different people want to do different things. So some people either deliberately or fortuitously discover something and see a use for it. Others aren't simply not good at seeing that use. And those who see a use for it, they also need money to take that use, to make something out of it, to test it first. Is it really useful? And then take it to the market. No, we do need freedom. We do need freedom for everyone to exploit their talents. And that needs different instruments. I think that's one. And again, that can't be done top down. So, you know, we bring us, ERC is being quoted as a success all the time. Why is the ERC a success? You could say, well, because they got a lot of money and, you know, they select the best people, easy peasy. You find good people and give them a lot of money, they'll do something valuable. True, that's part of it. But that's not trivial. So giving the money, that's trivial if the politicians give us the money. Finding the right people, that requires processes that were designed unlike the other processes for the other programs, with independence, bottom up, with knowledge. It also requires ways of serving the researchers who come to us with their ideas, who get the money, and who then have to spend the money in a flexible, free way. Free way doesn't mean that they buy the most expensive coffee machine for their lab or a Ferrari. Free means they are the ones who decide how to use the money. Yeah. And then I could go on about other red tape.
Exactly, and that's a certain responsibility, of course, but that also means for you, of course, you would also like to have that full autonomy to decide what to do with that budget, right? No one else
telling you. Well, the researchers should. I mean, they are selected top-level researchers who've shown that what they want to do is solve big problems, make big discoveries. They know best how to use that money to do that, and they have no other interest. Okay. They don't even think of other interests.
Thank you. So those are the big discoveries, I would say, on the lower TRL levels. I would like to now go to Pascal. Industry, Mr. Ehler already briefly mentioned industry, and also in a way, please step up your game in spending industry money on R&D. Happy to pick your brain on this specific statement.
Thank you for the question. Just before we start, so I'm the head of research of Syensqo. Maybe a lot of you don't know what is Syensqo, even don't know how to write it and how to pronounce it. Okay, so just very simply to give you a little bit of perspective. So Syensqo is a spin-off of the specialty part of a company which was called Solvay, and here it rings more a bell. And we are in the specialty material market. 8 billion euro, 13,000 employees, out of which 2,000 are scientists. So 15% of the company is science, just to give an idea. So that's, and why is it important to us? What do we sell? Because specialty materials, nobody knows what it is. 85% of all the planes in the world contains our material, either composite or plastic. And this will increase because we are flying more and more plastic planes, and they will be fully plastic in some time. 50% of all the electric cars in the world contains our products, additives, electric pack, and things like this. This will have to change. What we do today is not what we will do tomorrow. In the field of health, 50% of the hemodialyzer in the world contains our material to separate and to purify the blood. Even more surprising, in agriculture, 30% of all the corn seeds in the world are covered by our products to protect the seeds.
So in summary, basically, you have a huge footprint in every sector. So you're saying industry really does play a very big role.
And what I sell today will disappear. I need to find the next generation of product.
Okay. And how are you going to do that?
So you could say, I have 2,000 scientists, I'm a happy guy, I'm going to do this. But the problems are so huge when it comes to energy, to health technology, and so on. You do nothing with 2,000 scientists. We need to rely on basic science, which is done in very good academic labs, I would say in Europe, but as a worldwide company.
Projects.
Yes,
Exactly.
we are working with ERC people, but it could be worldwide. Just saying this, we are agnostic. If the best labs are elsewhere, we'll go elsewhere. That's as simple as this. And it's because we work with academia, working on academia doing its job, finding the solution and upstream research, not asking them to do our job. But if we work commonly on this is a problem we want to solve, then we'll be able to pick the right science and to develop it. And for us, having a very, very strong academic research with which we are collaborating is something absolutely important. And yes, when it comes to competitivity, we are a European-based company. We have most of our research in Europe, 50%. But in some way, when we look at our network of academic partnership, over 150, today I'm more increasing my partnership in Asia than reinforcing Europe. And I believe this should change. And we need to do something, and we need to do something together.
Which means making Europe stronger again. And I think, Mr. Letta, you've been very vocal on that already. And what you mentioned as well, you have a strong foothold in different kind of sectors. But what you do now is something that is non-existent in 20 years from now. So we have to keep on developing. So also perhaps a question to you, Mr. Letta. You talked about further integration of the financial market, the fifth freedom to really focus on investments in R&I to remain competitive. But also green technologies and sustainability play a vital role. And that's something that we see clearly also in the political guidelines of von der Leyen, something that you mentioned as well. But how can we focus on that without sacrificing economic growth and technological leadership? Are those components to be, is it possible to put those components together?
It is possible, and it is absolutely necessary. The point that you underline now today is the most important, the crucial, is the crossroad, the political crossroad in this legislature. It is clearly that. Because we are on the Green Deal today on the edge. And the feeling I have is that we will go forward only if we are able to find a solution to the conundrum on the how to finance the Green Deal. And there's no answer on this question, how to finance, how to accompany the Green Deal, if it is not by the integration of financial markets in Europe. Because as I told you before, there's not an agreement among member states to have a new next generation EU. There are half of the member states, they want to have a new next generation EU to finance the Green Deal. Half, or maybe less than half, but a large group of countries, they don't want to have a new next generation EU. They clearly say next generation EU was once in a lifetime. So in my view, the edge today is the fact that if we are not able to put on the table a large investment plan on how to finance with private and public money the Green Deal will be a backlash. It will be a social and political backlash. We see now some nuances on that. It will be clearly that. And politically, this is the topic, and this is why I wanted to clearly create this link between integrating financial markets and finding this plan of investments. Because otherwise, we discuss about investment plans, but there's no agreement on how to finance them. There would be frustration, and we will go back on some part. There's another point that, in my view, is crucial, is the role of stock exchanges. Because if I have to say, okay, which are the main problems of the comparison with the US? One of them is the fact that Nasdaq alone is all the European stock exchanges together twice. This is Nasdaq alone. So we are playing in two different championships. And it is clear that our lack of integration of financial markets is also, I'm very sad to say that, but I used to, to visit my country, to go around and to listen. Young people telling me, I have an idea, I'm a young startupper, I have to leave my country. But in the journey I had to prepare the report on the single market, I had the same from a lot of young startuppers everywhere in Europe telling me that I will go to the US because there I will find more money. Failure is not a stigma like it is in Europe. I can fail once and then I can try again. There are some subjects where it is probably impossible to succeed without one or two failures before, and maybe AI is one of them. And at the same time, the idea to create this, deep tech stock exchange that I put in the report, a unique, strong, big, deep tech stock exchange at the European level, we have to invent something similar. Otherwise, it will be very complicated to recuperate the ground with the US.
So that is, that's a lot of theory. And of course, we would like to see that the theory is being put into practice. But at the same time, I hear you saying as well, I traveled a lot, I talked to these people, and I see there's so little willingness to do any further integration. So if that's not going to happen, do we just have to accept here that people keep on going to the US, or that Pascal with his company will work more together with Asian-based bright minds than with Europeans?
In reality, what I saw around Europe is that there's a strong goodwill to have more integration and more competitiveness. The key point is that we have some emblematic, symbolic element of national sovereignty that are still there, and these elements are the obstacles to the integration. And this is, in my view, the key issue, because we have a great support on some of these issues, and I'm sure that there's a declic that we have to have. And I hope this declic can happen on financial markets.
And hopefully before any new crisis will happen, of course. That the click is being made just like that, right?
Yes, for sure. It's absolutely necessary not to hope to have Trump, because there's someone also in Europe saying that, okay, we will have Trump and he will help us to federate from abroad, because it will be such a fear. But I hope we can find inside what I would like to say very clearly is that the outcome of my report is to say that we have our resources inside, not outside. And this is an hidden gem. And the reasons why we didn't integrate all these markets is because of political, totally, I would say, unwise ideas. But also for a very simple reason. If we don't integrate energy, telecom, defense, the scale of this level is essential for your success. Because if we steal the low dimension on these three, it is clear that it will be impossible to drive the big innovation. Big innovation, I think what Christian said before on Volkswagen is absolutely clear. We are reducing the level of our big firms able to stay at a level where they are able to invest a lot of money in terms of innovation, research, and you need to have it. Otherwise, it is impossible to combine public and private at a too low level. And this is, in my view, the key success story that we have to build up now.
Everyone needs to step it up, indeed. And I think there's enough goodwill, at least in this room, but everyone needs to become very vocal, of course. Talking about becoming vocal, I'd like to also open up the floor to you. And let's see if there are a couple of questions. And yes, there are. Who has the... Thank you, Sylvia. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Ludovic Tilly, the chair of the Coimbra Group of Universities, vice rector at University of Poitiers in France, and researcher in physics, an active researcher. My question to the panel is actually, we know that excellent research can only happen if we have excellent researchers. And this can also only happen if we have excellent education. So what are, in your views, the best way to really have a concrete synergy between education and research, which will make research successful?
It's a question to all the panelists?
Those willing to
Let's give it a try. Okay, Pascal, may I start with you? No. Okay, then I'm not going to start with you. No worries. Maria.
I mean, education is of course important. It's amazing how some very bright people thrive and become, geniuses, even if they haven't had a great education. Now, that's not an excuse, but I don't think excellent research is the reason to have excellent education. Excellent education is, the most important output is a society that understands democracy and understands truth. So I don't agree with the connection you made. Of course, we have to have good students, and of course, the students will have been trained at school. But I don't think that's where Europe is non-competitive with the rest of the world. So, I don't have an answer. I just wanted to say that the conjunction you make, I don't think is that important. And of course, education is largely national policy anyway, and not so much EU policy.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough. I think Pascal now does want to answer.
No, just maybe to go. I do believe that there is a possibility to attract the very best scientists. And I think, by the way, ERC is a good example attracting. It's difficult to get an ERC grant. So the best ones, they can come from anywhere. That's a story. One thing which is absolutely key is we need to give them proper salary, tools to realize what they want to do. Okay, a bit why ERC is successful is because they have to defend their projects. They have to be a real breakthrough project, and I think this is absolutely key because we discuss European has lost in competitivity. We are not to catch back, and we need to look at the next generation technology in battery. Let's not work on the next generation. We need to work on the one after. It's too late. It's too late already. So it's important that we have the top scientists working on this. We need to give them the means to do this research. And we often in Europe have difficulties to do that. And this is what we need to change.
Okay, and that starts with a broad skill set, and education can help there, of course, and provide a foundation. Yeah, Maria?
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, we see education actually is probably of more uniform quality in Europe than the next level, namely the infrastructure that's provided for people who are very, very good and want to do something, and who, when they end up with startups, say they want to go abroad. So we do see many people, for instance, from the widening countries that don't do great in attracting ERC grants, but they do great. Their citizens do incredibly great at attracting ERC grants when they're in a different country where the research infrastructure is good. So I think what we've got to do more is encourage all countries to make the best of their talent, of their educated talent, which comes out of school extremely well educated, and then doesn't find career structures is one thing in their own countries where they can develop in the way that they deserve to develop, and the infrastructure. So I think that's a greater problem.
Just to make it simple, we collaborate a lot with university and very bright scientists. The worst thing I sometimes see is you go and visit the lab of the guy. The guy is super bright, and it's a shitty lab.
No.
I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also run into the topic of brain drain, but we're not going to touch that specific topic. The infrastructure should be there, indeed, in each and every European country, and with that also defining that we are one Europe instead of a scattered landscape of 27 different EU member states. Let's see if there's another question. There's quite a lot of questions. The gentleman in the back there. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So thank you for inviting me, and thank you to the speaker. I'm Luca Moretti. I'm the head of National Research Council of Italy, Brussels office. I have a question for for all the panelists, if I may. So reading carefully your report, Mr. Letta, and even the report of President Draghi and the other, even the report of Gross, there is a common denominator, which is the competitiveness, which seems to be the backbone of the next Commission program. The question is quite simple. Going to research, where it's clear that the first pillar and the last pillar, so namely the ERC and the European Innovation Council, will survive in a certain way or reshuffled, it is unclear which will be the sort of the second pillar, which is the research in cooperation with different TRL. Looks like the second pillar, the research in cooperation, will be ancillary to the competitiveness, or it will be instrumental to the competitiveness. This is the very question which is popping up in the RPOs and in the scientific communities. My question is, do you have any possibility to mitigate this concern that the second pillar will be disappearing, or it will be embedded in the competitiveness fund if you will see the light? Thank you.
Okay. Who would be willing to comment on that? Because I know you're more Miss Pillar 1, I would say, within the program. But of course, if your scientists want to do collaborative projects, then Pillar 2 is a very suitable place to go. So Maria, perhaps you would like to comment briefly.
I have no crystal ball. I wish I knew. I mean, I think from what Christian Ehler said, we're all a little bit concerned for all pillars where they will go and how that will be handled and whether they'll have a dedicated budget. So I wish I knew the answer.
Okay. Mr. Letta, you could potentially say European Competitiveness Fund sounds good because it's extra funding and it goes into competition. That is exactly what we need in Europe.
We need, of course, extra funding, but I know very well that everything will be very complicated if we are not able to change the paradigm of the financial budget. The European financial budget will be, I don't want to dramatize too much, but after years in which we had Next Generation EU, in which we had many other, I would say, national state aid on many issues, the idea to say, okay, now stops to national state aid, stop the Next Generation EU, and we come back to the former EU budget, I don't think it will work. I think it will be a disaster. And this is why I strongly believe that we have to change paradigm on that. Otherwise, it will be una guerra tra poveri. I don't know how to say it in English, but I think you understand the point.
Okay, thanks for this input. Pascal,
I
what
don't
can
have
you
many,
add?
but to me, being under competitiveness is not a problem. You know, doing top science to prepare tomorrow is part of competitiveness. If we don't do this, we have a problem. Okay, so after everybody is putting whatever they want under competitiveness, and so what is important is what you do and where you put your money to make sure you are really preparing tomorrow and doing the right thing to develop a science in Europe, and that this science is useful for the industries to do investment and to stay there and to be leading the next technologies for tomorrow.
Thanks.
So that's really what is important, is what do we do and how we make sure this is really fitting with the purpose.
Exactly,
we
and
are
something
looking
that we
for.
do collectively, public, private, as has been said before as well. I think there's a question up front here as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marta Agostinho. I'm the Executive Director of ULife, which is the Alliance of Independent Research Institutes in the Life Sciences across Europe. Thanks a lot. I'm much more basic than this conversation at some times because I really am based in a research institute and I share my office with the researchers at all levels. So I'm going to make maybe a more pragmatic question. We talk about competitiveness and preparing the future, but what happens, and the research matter campaigns of which we are part is a bit of this, right? We claim for the intangible target of 3%. There is basic pillars on the research side and the innovation side that are not invested on. And the ERC is the amazing jewel that we have, but it only exists because there is people there and because there is infrastructure. So in the competitiveness strategy of Europe, how can we ensure that the basic pillars of having this ecosystem strong enough without promising the moonshot, how we realistic put research and innovation in the competitiveness? I don't know if I was clear, but I think we have to go to the basics sometimes.
You want to make things very concrete.
No,
Exactly.
I like very, if I may say, I like very much your question, because when we have to, I would say, there's always this. Frankly speaking, it's enough with moonshot, because it's the typical way to apply political slogans to complicated things. It's the way also to have something that I have to sell to my voters immediately now, and it's totally crazy to continue like that. So I strongly believe that we need to change approach and to be able to go to basics and to be able to organize things that are working, not only things that we can sell, because of course we can sell it, but it's not just an episodic sale that will save research and our activity. So I can't add more than what you said. It's exactly what I try to underline with the report, and in general with the fifth freedom, that is very transversal, very horizontal. In general, in terms of method, I'm a very horizontal one. I hate when we are entering in this vertical idea that Europe has to be vertical on everything, because so we are fast, we are modern, it's not Europe. Europe needs to be horizontal in the way also in which we bring on board everyone.
Thank you for the inputs. Maria, would you like to add? Very good. Then, final question that we can take from the audience. At the back, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I feel very special having the last question. My name is Maaike Delors, representing, and actually I do share the name of Jacques Delors, but written in a different version. I'm representing 20 universities of applied sciences of the Netherlands, USANL. And I think it's more, I mean, it's for all panelists, and I very much enjoyed your reflections. It's maybe not so much of a question, but combining, and I very much want to make the horizontal move instead of the pillar current structure as well. And talking about complementarity and bringing back what, if I may call you by your first name, Maria, said very eloquently, that the researchers bring the success and the questions, or that drives the ERC to excellence. And to bring also in a horizontal way Mr. Letta's points on the market, and therefore it's the competitiveness to make Europe better. I would say let's start from the goal. And the goal is to make a better Europe, a more competitive Europe, and therefore have then not only the questions from the researchers, but the questions coming from the market, the questions from the society that we want to tackle together, the transitions that we're facing. So I just would like to hear more of your reflections on combining the question, the driving, the needs, the asks from market, from public, from society, that drives then our R&I ambitions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Letta, perhaps?
I can't agree more on that. I think we have the great opportunity, and the great opportunity is the transition. We have this great opportunity because we had 5 years in which we were very good in setting the scene, taking the right decisions, going in the right direction, and creating, I think, a general awareness that is today there. Now it's time to be able to, I would say, to maximize, to focus, to be able to mobilize, and to be able, first of all, to give the sense of the direction. And the sense of the direction means also that the direction is there, is not like that. Because we are having the feeling that we are starting in a sort of slalom on these aspects. So I come back to politics, if I may say. And I think your role, sorry if I say that, is also a very important role in advocacy at national level. I know we are here in Brussels, so you are very much focused on members of European Parliament or commissioners, and that's good. But please, do not forget that everything starts and everything, I would say, ends with the European Council, with the Council of Ministers, and with the national fences. And so please, find a way to use your energies for a national advocacy. Because if your ministers, if your ministries, they feel that there's a pressure from the bottom, I think that is a different point, because they are, of course, by definition, sensitive to the ground and to the pressure of voters or stakeholders. But please go in that direction, because sometimes I have the feeling that we have the idea, no, okay, on research everything happens in Brussels, so we have to go there. But please, on many of these issues, on large part of the topics what we discussed today, the obstacles are at national level. And if you want, I can tell you the list of the fences and the responsible of the fences, of the obstacles. Because there are national obstacles on one point, another point, and on different aspects. And I can tell you that my journey around Europe was very funny, full of fun, because I visited...
Would you do it again?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good.
I like traveling.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I visited all member states, and each government was telling me how guilty was the neighboring country. He's doing so, and so, and without saying anything, of course, on the main points that they didn't do. So it is clear that there's a point there. And the point is about the fact that we have to overcome national obstacles And part of that are national obstacles, because if we are not able to have this integration of financial markets, it's not because there's bad will in Brussels. The obstacle is national. And on many other subjects, the obstacles are national, and we have to work both at national and European level.
I think that's a very good point to make indeed, because we know we are in Brussels and a lot is happening here, but in the end it's really up to the member states also to decide, okay, how much funding will flow into the new budgeting periods, how are they going to spend it? And it's not so easy, of course, with a lot of far-right movements right now in politics, and already in EU member states where some of them are facing cuts on research and innovation as well.
I underline one small but very, very, I would say, bloody part of my report, that is the proposal to stop directives and to move to regulations. Yep. That seems not the most sexy proposal. It's not a moonshot. Nobody will sell it, and nobody will buy it. But it is, for me, the revolution that we need, because I would say, the fragmentation. And I put it because I was minister in my country on the single market. So I know all the spectacular inventions that we had to try to postpone the application of directives and so on. We need to move from directives to regulations, full stop. And we have to, I would say, train our public administrations to fight in the moment in which the regulation has to be approved. Then there's a big fight, but once the decision is taken, then is the level playing field for all. Is the only way to get out from this chaos.
That's indeed the basis, to have then that level playing field, but at the same time, even when the regulation is there, it's up to different kind of interpretations, and that's something that needs to be worked on top as well. But that's a different discussion. Maria, I think you wanted to make another point.
Well, pick up the horizontal in a slightly different context. You know, the ERC is mentioned often as an example, also in the Draghi report, and as an example to follow, and for other things to do the same. Now, there's a number of things. I've given some reasons why the ERC is a success. We have to remember it's only a tiny sliver of funding for science in Europe. And of course, the ERC can afford to take only those few, and that's also part of the question. You know, these people who end up funded by the ESR, they must be nurtured at country level. So that's one thing, horizontal. It has to, the basis has to come from the countries. But what can be used horizontally, and you know, of course, the citizen is absolutely entitled to have their tax money spent on finding solutions for climate change, for disease, for poverty, for migration, whatever problems we have. And the politician is entitled to make top-down decisions as to where to allocate money to solve these problems. The question is the how, and that's where the ERC can serve as an example. Ask the experts. The same applies to the EIC. A bureaucrat cannot decide what is the best way of investing into what startup company. It has to come from the experts. So all these programs need more independence, need more autonomy, need a governance that allows experts to speak fast and not with 2-year run-up times for decisions. So I think that's where I can make a recommendation how the ERC can serve as an example to be used in a horizontal way.
Okay, I think that these are some very vital suggestions. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we're just going to wrap it up with one final question to all of you, and I'd like to answer you with only one word, so people have something to discuss during the reception that we're going to host afterwards. So what needs to be done to create a Europe which has the strongest ever possible research and innovation base in 2030? And I can imagine you would say integration, but perhaps it will be a different word, Mr. Letta.
I would say scale.
Scale.
Because I see the problem that we have today, and the problem today is the lack of scale. It is clearly that I'm not someone only for gigantism, or I'm not proposing the European Union becoming like the US. But today we are too small, too fragmented. There's no, I would say, no match.
Perfect. Maria.
Flexibility. I would have said freedom had you not already said it, but flexibility and mechanisms.
Perfect. Pascal.
And I will add quality.
Quality. Okay. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please give our panelists a big hand. Yeah, it was really lovely having you here, and I think we could have had a discussion taking another 2 to 3 hours, but luckily we're also hosting a reception right now on the 6th floor. But before we do so, I also would like to ask you to give a big hand to the broader organization that actually pulled off this event. So, big hand. And once again, do support the Research Matters campaign if you haven't done so yet. And I wish you all the best of luck. And I would be so happy for you when you finally will have that budget and that extra investment, which is so much needed to be able to compete very well in this interesting world. Thank you so much and have a nice evening. Bye.